Hey y'all, welcome back to our channel. Blair with Lone Star Candle Supply here, and today we're going to be showing you how to make an exfoliating body scrub using our foaming bath butter cosmetic base. Whether you're going to be making these just for yourself or to give away as gifts, or if you're looking for an exciting new product to add to your collection, this is the project for you. You're just going to need a few things to get started today. First and most importantly is going to be the foaming bath butter cosmetic base. We sell these in the 2-pound tray, which is what I've got here. And we do also sell it in a 25-pound case if you need a larger bulk quantity. And then you are also going to need some sort of a soap-safe fragrance oil. I've selected our brand new dragon fruit fragrance from our Summer Vibes collection. This is such a wonderful fruity fragrance. I really like this. I've used this in body care products before and it smells amazing. I always get compliments on it. Another very important thing that you're going to need today is going to be some sort of a mixer. I personally do recommend using a stand mixer because it's going to have to mix for about 10 to 15 minutes minimum. So you can use a hand mixer if that's all you have, but you're going to have to use a little bit of elbow grease to really get it whipped up and frothy the way that you need it to. A couple of other things that you're going to need would be some sort of a rubber spatula, something to cut your soap base with, and we are also going to be using sugar for our exfoliant today. This is just regular granulated sugar. You can use whatever exfoliant that you want to though. You can use poppy seeds. You can use salt if you prefer sugar. Any kind of an exfoliant of your choice really will work. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is get yourself a pair of latex or nitrile gloves just to help make sure that we're not getting any unwanted bacteria or anything into your base. You would also normally want to pull your hair back, maybe even put it in a hairnet, just to make sure that you're following best practices when it comes to manufacturing. But first thing that we're going to do here is we are going to open up the lid. We're going to put that to the side. There's a little bit of a trick to getting this out of the tray. You're going to want to kind of pull on the sides just to release a little bit of air. And then we're going to turn this over and it should slide right out. You can see my tray is almost perfectly empty. And then I'm going to just put that over here. And I've got still quite a bit of the soap base on top of my lid. So I'm actually just going to take my knife and just scrape that off a little bit. And I'm going to put it right into my mixer. And let's go ahead and raise this lid up. Okay. A couple more little pieces that I'm just going to throw into the pot there. Don't want to waste a single bit of this. Okay. And now what you want to do is cut your foaming bath butter into about 1.5 inch to 2 inch wide cubes. They don't have to be super small. For this little tray, actually, just cutting it into 3 pieces like this works really well. And then just kind of cut it in half. And then we're just going to chuck that right into our mixing bowl. Now this does take quite a bit, like I said, to get it all mixed up and frothy the way that you'll want it to be. But I promise it's actually very easy. The mixer really does most of the work for you if you have a stand mixer. Again, so highly recommend. That's definitely a piece of equipment that you would want, especially if you're going to be making these in any kind of capacity to sell or anything like that. Okay, so now we've got all of our foaming bath butter into the mixer. So you're going to want to make sure that you start it on low, but don't leave it on low for too long. If you leave it on low for too long, the base will start to sit to the sides of the bowl. It'll also get trapped into the whisk. So You can start it on a low setting, but you're going to want to steadily incline it pretty quickly, just so it doesn't get stuck too much. Well, let's lower this down here. And then I'm going to go ahead and get this started. So once your base has been mixing for a little bit, you're going to want to take it out. It is still going to sit and get stuck up on the sides, but you want to take your spatula. Let's just pull this out here. You can see it's all stuck on the sides of my bowl. So I'm just going to take my spatula and kind of shove that down to the bottom of the bowl so that I can make sure that the mixer really gets all of that, so that it'll get nice and whipped. You can also take your spatula and scrape your whisk a little bit. You can see it's still really thick, which is not what we're going to want for our end product. So make sure you kind of clean out the whisk, and you'll have to do this several times while you are whipping it. It's just the nature of the product that you're using. It's really sticky, so it's going to stick to your whisk and to the sides of your bowl. Okay. And we're going to drop this back down, and I'm going to try to get it to about a third of the way to where it needs to be before we add the fragrance oil. So really you want to get it whipped for about 5 to 6 minutes before you add your fragrance. So I'm just going to turn this back up. Okay, we are getting closer to where we want to add our fragrance oil, but it's still got quite a bit of the base stuck up on the sides of the bowl. So I'm going to scrape it one more time. You can see, here I'll show. You can see that we are starting to get more of that like whipped cream or meringue texture, but we still need to scrape the sides of our bowl down a little bit. Tell it's really getting whipped up to the right texture on the whisk here. Just gonna scrape this guy one more time, and then we will add our fragrance oil. Really, this just takes a little bit of patience, guys. It's not gonna be super difficult to make these foaming bath butters. Okay, we're gonna drop this down one more time. Okay, so it's about the right texture for me to add the fragrance oil. So we're going to go ahead and measure that out. I'm just going to use this little beaker on the scale to measure out my fragrance. Now this base is about, like I said, 2 pounds. You can do up to 3% fragrance load or any kind of additive. So if you're planning on adding any other oils or anything like that, the maximum total amount of additives that you can add to this base is going to be 3%. So just keep that in mind whenever you're considering how much fragrance you want to use. In this case, I'm going to use about an ounce of fragrance, which is close to that 3% mark. So I'm just going to measure that out by weight here. And this fragrance is already filling up the entire lab with how wonderful it smells. It is incredible, guys. Okay, so I know we said we were not going to mix it on slow or on low for too long, but anytime that you're adding any kind of a liquid to this, you want to make sure that you go slow, especially with the fragrance oil. So I'm going to drop this back down in here. I'm going to turn it on a low setting, and then I'm going to slowly add in the fragrance oil until I've got it all mixed in. now that I've got all of my fragrance oil poured into the base, I'm going to turn it back up on high and we're going to mix it for about 5 more minutes. And we'll see where we are. Okay, so it looks like we are about to the right consistency where we can start adding our exfoliant. I don't know how well you can see it here, but let me scrape this off. It's really getting into that like meringue, whipped cream kind of stage. So this is what we're looking for. We're looking for those real stiff peaks like you would with a meringue or a whipped cream. Okay, one more time, scraping the bowl. It smells so good. It's making the entire lab smell amazing. I love this dragon fruit fragrance, you guys. Okay. Put that back in there. Now, I've already measured out my exfoliant, which again is going to be granulated sugar. You can use up to a 1-to-1 ratio. So the same amount of the same amount of your exfoliant to your foaming bath butter base. I'm doing about 3/4 to 1. So this is 3/4 of the weight of the foaming bath butter. I personally found it just gets a little bit too thick if I do a 1-to-1 ratio. So I prefer to do the 3/4 to 1 ratio. So I'm going to turn this back on high. We're going to slowly pour this in. One other thing that you may need is some distilled water. So you can add this to your foaming bath butter base if you want to soften it just a little bit. And we may need to do that. It just kind of depends. But we are going to slowly drop this in and I'll kind of evaluate halfway through if I want to add my distilled water. The manufacturer says that you can add up to 8% of distilled water to your base. So I've measured out just about 1.5 ounces of distilled water by weight in my little measuring cup here, and I'm going to keep it on standby in case I need to add it to the foaming bath butter. So we're going to put this back down again, turn it on high, and I'm going to slowly add in the granulated sugar. So I can tell now that I've added about half of the sugar, it's starting to really thicken up again, kind of, back to the point where we were in the beginning. So I'm going to scrape the bowl and then I am going to go ahead and drop in just a little bit of the water. You don't want to do too much. Just keep in mind, you can always add more, but you can't really take any away. So just add it very slowly and gradually. Take this out here. Make it a little bit easier. It is still very fluffy, but it's starting to get really sticky just from adding that exfoliant to it. So I really think that adding some water is going to help loosen it up just a little bit. But if you prefer it to be a little bit thicker, you don't have to do that. I am going to have the mixer running while I'm adding the water, so I'm going to turn it not quite up to high, but about medium speed before I add the water. So this is just about to where we need it to be. I did end up adding a little bit of distilled water, but as you can see, there's still quite a bit of it left. So honestly, a little goes a long way. I've used all of my sugar. So I'm just gonna set that to the side. I'm going to scrape the bowl one more time, whip it for a couple of more minutes, and I think we are going to be at the perfect consistency. We're gonna scrape the whisk. You can see all of that sugar added in there. Now, sugar is not going to affect the scent, but some exfoliants may. I know you can use like coffee grounds or something like that. So just keep in mind, whatever kind of exfoliant that you add, it depending on what it is, it may alter your fragrance. So keep that in mind with whatever fragrance you end up using. All right, this is beautiful consistency. Like I said, I'm just gonna whip it a little bit more just to really make sure all of that sugar is incorporated into the mixture. Scrape this one more time. And I think we're gonna be perfect after one more quick mix. It is perfect now. All right, you can see now it's just falling right off the whisk because it's nice and fluffy and perfect. So we are going to scrape this whisk, try to get as much off of it as possible. And then now you can see just how beautiful and fluffy that is. Okay, so now we need to fill our containers. So I've got my 4 little jelly jars here. You want to make sure that you give these a really good scrub before you add anything to them. And we're actually going to use a piping bag to pipe these into the jars. You can use a spatula if you prefer. I do find that that's relatively messy and it tends to kind of get around the threads of the jar. So I prefer to use the piping bag. So a little trick that someone told me is that you can take a little piece of cling wrap, just like this. We're gonna lay it out flat on the counter. And I'm just gonna take my foaming bath butter here and put a little bit of it in a line going down the middle. And this will make it easier to put into your piping bag. Just like that. And then roll it up like this and twist up one end so it doesn't fall out of the bottom. And then I'm gonna get my trusty scissors here. Okay. And then now I can hold it like this, and I'm gonna cut the end off. And we're just gonna drop it down into the piping bag. All right. And just like you would a bag of frosting, you're just gonna squeeze it. And I'm actually not using a piping tip, I'm just using the little thing that would hold your piping tip. If you have an extra large piping tip, that's gonna be ideal for this. Because we've added the sugar to it, it's gonna make it a little bit thicker, so it may not be ideal for smaller piping tips. And we're just gonna pipe this into the bags. You can do a pretty design if you want to, but otherwise, we're just gonna do it like that. want to make sure that you fill them really well. And I may not quite have enough to fill up this one, but this mixture that we did today should be enough to make about 15 4-ounce containers like this, just from that little bitty 2-pound tray of the foaming bath butter. Okay, perfect. So now once you've gotten the foaming bath butter added to your jars, you'll put your lids on. And you are good to go, guys. This is a very fluffy, very exfoliating body scrub. I really like to use this before shaving my legs, especially in the summertime when you're wearing shorts or a cute dress and you want your legs to be nice and smooth. This is really great. Plus, it smells incredible. We hope you enjoyed this video today, guys. You'll have to come back and see us next time. Thanks.